Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Hootselle, the Chief Cloud Officer with Auditmacs. As you guys know, Tech Talk is a show where we talk to IT leaders and subject matter experts in the field of technology, talk about current events and some of the things that are happening today. We always have great guests on. Today is no different. Joining us from Boston, Massachusetts is Dmitriy Sokolovskiy with the CISO with Avid. So, Dmitry, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
So Dmitry, maybe from the top, if you could talk a little bit about Avid. So folks that maybe aren't familiar with you guys, I'm sure they know your work and things you guys provide in a roundabout way, but talk a little more about Avid and the solutions you guys provide.
Avid is a company that provides high-end audio, video, hardware, and software solutions for some of the best-known, biggest broadcasting movie companies, concert audio shows, and so on. If you think of a live show or a piece of audio video production that was made in the last 20, 30 years, Avid had a hand in it. From Super Bowls to Olympics to half of Hollywood movies, we've had a hand in everything.
Yeah. So obviously, when you're talking about that kind of production work, the audio, video, and that type of work, Dmitry, I mean, you think about these big studios, this expensive equipment, all these things that people would use to do that. Now with the COVID situation pushing everybody remote, how are you guys adapting to that? Has that kind of slowed business down and kind of stopped what you guys are doing? Have you been able to kind of adapt, in this new environment?
There is some impact, obviously, the live concerts and shows being canceled or postponed, and there's a bit less of a production from the movie side, from the studio side, from that perspective. But a lot of these companies are moving their production to this new reality. People are working from home, so a lot of the flows that would normally be handled in the studio are now being handled remotely. And the technology that we provide is shifting in that direction as well. A lot of the workflows are moving to the cloud. Large broadcasting or movie industry studios are shifting. All of their employees working from home, but they're still continuing to work, continuing to edit the material, and that shift is massive.
Yeah, so I know we've talked about this before. As you guys kind of make that shift, I mean, it's one thing of these. I think a lot of people, just assume the remote environment is going to be the same as the normal office environment. What considerations have you guys had to account for as far as keeping your employees and those folks secure, in this new remote environment? What does that look like from a security standpoint?
The biggest part is, as it's always been, is user education, user awareness. When people are moving home, their environment changes, what they do, how they operate, the hardware, the connections, things like that change, but they still need to be aware and understand what is important. So as part of that immediate shift, when the COVID really settled and all the orders to stay home and work from home came down, that was one of the very first things we were doing. Specific education packages, meetings, reviews with our employees to make sure that they understood how to connect to their wireless network securely, how to limit exposure to their kids and other family members for the laptops and documents and things like that.
Yeah, it seems like I said, there's probably a more prevalence now of kind of the bad actors than there probably ever has been. I think, whenever a new situation like this arrives that exposes threat, people are going to jump in and do that. There's been reports that the cybercrime activity has kind of gone off the charts since everything happened. I think you said education is a big factor in that, of try to limit that or at least help your staff be aware of it, what's going on. Any other things you would recommend for companies looking to take precautions, beyond the education of their staff?
Sure. So just a quick comment on what you just said. The bad guys are also working from home more now. There's actually more activity for them because they have more time. But in addition to education, and I can't understate that, the education, user awareness is one of the most important things an InfoSec program can deliver for a company. But in addition to that, you want to obviously augment that with technical solutions. Some of the most important ones, multi-factor authentication, now more important than ever, because if in the past people were in the office and that was one of the possibilities to additionally authenticate your employees by actually having badges and people knowing them walking into the building, that's not relevant right now. So we have to make sure that the multi-factor authentication solutions are implemented across the board, across every tool that the company has. Secure remote connections, whether it is VPN using multi-factor authentication or more and more today, cloud environments where you don't need to actually connect to the company network are also protected in a similar fashion. Reviewing permission structures and looking for additional abnormalities in logging data, things like that, are becoming more and more important in this kind of environment, especially. So the InfoSec teams would need to concentrate their efforts on these things in day-to-day activities. But again, multi-factor authentication, secure connections, and verification of who has access to what on an ongoing basis. Those are probably the most important pieces right now.
It's good. I know we talk a lot about the negative side of things, right? We talk about security and everything that's happening right now, but it's interesting. Are you seeing events like this? A lot of cases will be the things that spurns innovation. They spurn new technologies or new ways of doing business. Are you guys seeing that at all with some of the changes? Are there any positives coming out of this? You think that'll last long term for us?
I think so. I think what's the changes that are happening now are here to stay in many ways. On one side, if we just talk about the things that we do, the Avid does, the business that we're in, movement to the cloud and running these editing and content management solutions and workflows directly from the cloud as opposed to being in a studio is a change that's going to stay. In some ways, it's actually improving the overall ability for journalists and content creators to create content. It's delivering the tools right down to people, making them more available. And so if in the past giving these tools was an optional thing for someone that is somewhere in the field in Africa, for example, because we now have to deliver them for everyone, they're becoming more available, becoming better solutions for those kinds of engagements. So I think this is going to be an improvement in just the world that Avid operates in. But from security perspective, I think, again, the things that I just talked about, multi-factor authentication solutions, secure connection solutions, zero trust, and some of the things we're hearing today, the changes that are needed to implement zero trust correctly, the changes that are necessary to implement cloud solutions correctly, securely, are coming to the forefront, and they are becoming a reality and a necessity now more than they used to be before. And so it's going to drive the innovation and deployment of these solutions, pushing for things like infrastructure as a code and security as a code, and making security a much more deployable, much more standardized component of cloud deployments than ever before. And I think that's a huge benefit that is going to stay for years to come.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, obviously, first and foremost, we're hoping for the health and well-being of everybody, and this all kind of tapers down a little bit. We get back to a semblance of normal, but I think you're right. I think hopefully some of these changes will have some positive benefits to business and the different companies out there. So we appreciate what you guys are doing. We're looking forward to when we can see you guys and some of your work on some of the live events and things like that to come soon. But Dmitriy, thanks as always for joining us and chatting with us a little bit of your perspective today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
All right, great. And thank you guys for joining us for another episode of Tech Talk. We'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Stay safe.